Hello, dear students of class 9. In the last class, we have learned about the definition of respiration. We have gone through the chemical equation of respiration, major characteristics of respiration, and we have learned through the two major phases, that is glycolysis and Krebs cycle. We have learned the two types of metabolic activities, that is anabolic process and the catabolic process. Then we have defined the respiration as a catabolic process where there will be a breakdown of food particles releasing carbon dioxide, water and energy. So today we'll continue with the same topic. So we'll learn with the difference between respiration and burning, that is combustion. So what is the difference between respiration and burning or combustion? The first step or the first difference is that respiration is a cellular process. It takes place in cells, and non-cellular means it does not take place in a cell. Okay, it occurs externally in any environmental condition. Respiration occurs at body temperature, whereas combustion occurs at high temperature. Okay, at ignition point means that particular temperature, low temperature, at which the combustible substances starts to burn. That is called ignition point. Number 3, respiration occurs a series of chemical steps. We have learned about glycolysis, Krebs cycles, but in case of combustion, it's a single step. There are no such multiple steps in case of combustion. Respiration is carried out by the help of enzymes, so it's an enzyme dependent process, whereas burning or combustion, it does not require any types of enzymes. Okay, simply it is carried out by the heat. Number 5th point, respiration is a biochemical process. It occurs within the living cells, the living organisms, but burning is a simple physiochemical process. Number 6th point, in respirations, energy will be released in the form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and little amount of heat will be released. But in case of combustion, energy is liberated. All the energy is liberated as heat and light. So heat and light will be produced during combustion, but light, they are not produced in case of respiration. Okay, so number 6 said that no light energy is produced in case of respiration, and in burning or combustion light energy is produced. So go through the difference between respiration and burning or combustion is very easy. Clear? Now next point, next one, the entire plant respires. So from which part of the plant there will be respiration or there will be exchange of gases? Okay, so oxygen in the plants is obtained from the atmosphere through the three inlets. It is very important. So from which part of the plant oxygen is supplied to the cells of the plant? So generally you have learnt about stomata, you have learnt about lenticels. Clear? So what do you mean stomata? They are the minute pores which are present on the surface of the leaf. So from this tiny pore, from the stomata, oxygens will diffuse from the environment towards the leaf. That means by the help of the stomata, the oxygens will get in towards the plant cells. Number 2, lenticels, which are present on the stems. Okay, so from the stems also, that means from the lenticels which are present on the stems, those oxygen will be diffused to the plant cells. And number 3, from the general surface of the roots. So mainly oxygen in the plant is obtained from these three inlets. Okay, one is from stomata present on the surface of the leaf, number 2 lenticels which are present on the stems, and number 3 through the general surface of the roots. So from these three particular sources oxygen will diffuse in towards the plant. So plants are able to get the oxygen. Clear? So you can see over here, plugging or tilling of the soil create the tiny air spaces. That means when we are plugging the soils or when we are tilling the agricultural fields, okay, a tiny air spaces will be produced in the soil surfaces, which will help the root of the plant to absorb the soil. Clear? Sorry, to absorb the oxygen. Now, waterlogged and compact soil if waterlogging is there in the soil, if the soil is very compact, very tight, all right, if there is no air space due to the compactness of the soil, in that case the root will not able to perform the process of respiration. They will be devoid of oxygen. Clear? So during ploughing or tilling of the soil, roots will be able to absorb the oxygen and they will be able to start the process of respiration. But whenever there will be water logging, or whenever the soil will be very tight or compact, in that case there will be no air spaces, and this will affect the process of respiration. Look over here. During daytime, due to photosynthesis, the leaves produce oxygen. Now, most of the oxygen is used in respiration and the rest is diffused out. That means during the daytime, we all know that in the presence of sunlight, the plant will perform photosynthesis. And during photosynthesis, the plant will not only synthesize the food, glucose, but it will release or it will produce oxygen. So those oxygen which are produced during photosynthesis, some of it will be utilized for the process of respiration, but majority of it will be released into the atmosphere so that all the living organisms can usually survive. Because without oxygen, living organisms cannot survive. Okay. Now, therefore, those carbon dioxide which are produced during respiration in the leaves are utilized as raw material for photosynthesis. Look over here. That means during photosynthesis, oxygen is being produced. Small amount of oxygen is utilized by the plant to perform respiration. During respiration, not only energy is released, but carbon dioxide is also released. So those released carbon dioxide is again reutilized by the plant for the process of photosynthesis. Clear? So again, it will produce oxygen. Those oxygen which are produced, small amount will be utilized for the process of respiration. Half will release into the atmosphere. And again, during respiration by the plants, CO2 will be released. Again, it will be utilized for the process of for the process of photosynthesis. Clear? Okay. Look away. It's very important one. At night, even the leaf absorbs, or they will obtain oxygen from the atmosphere and give out carbon dioxide. Okay, during the night time. During daytime, they are taking in carbon dioxide, giving out oxygen. But during night, the leaf of the plant, they used to obtain oxygen from the atmosphere. They are taking in oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide. So therefore, we should avoid sleeping under a tree at the night. However, sleeping under a tree during hot midday is definitely good. Why? Because one gets both oxygen due to photosynthesis, and number two, coolness due to transpiration. Now, all of you have heard about photosynthesis, but what is transpiration? Transpiration is the process where the water molecules from the plant body will be released in the form of vapor from the aerial part of the plant, mainly from the leaf. Okay, so that's why due to transpiration there will be a cooling sensation. Okay, it gives a cooling sensation. But during night, avoid sleeping under the tree. It will give out carbon dioxide instead of giving oxygen. Okay, but during midday, it is good because we are getting oxygen. That is fine. But same time, we are also getting coolness. Why? Due to transpiration. Now, for the progress check, I will supply the answers to the WhatsApp group. Okay, no need to worry for that. Now, next thing, let's check out the types of respiration. Now, what are the two types of respirations or the kinds of respiration? We have got two kinds of respiration: aerobic respiration, which takes place in the presence of oxygen. Note it down: aerobic, which takes place in the presence of oxygen, and anaerobic, which takes place in the absence of oxygen. So we'll go through it. So one that takes place in the presence of oxygen and is oxygen dependent is called aerobic respiration, and second one which takes place in the absence of oxygen or not dependent on oxygen is called anaerobic respiration. Okay, so what do you think? Like we used to have aerobic mode of respiration or anaerobic mode of respiration. So think of it. Okay, so let's go to detail. Aerobic respiration. So normally free oxygen is used in respiration. It is fine because we need oxygen to perform respiration. So free oxygen is used in respiration, and that is utilized for the complete oxidation of glucose. Remember, so oxygen is needed for respiration, and that oxygen is needed for the complete breakdown or oxidation of glucose food particles. All right, and whenever the food particles will be broken down, whenever the glucose molecules will be broken down, what will be released? Carbon dioxide, water, and energy will be released. Okay, and that we have gone through the reaction also. C6H12O6 glucose, 6 molecules of oxygen. It is enzyme dependent process, you know that. So what will be formed? The end products will be carbon dioxide, water, and energy. Energy will be in the form of ATP, and from 1 mole of glucose, 38 ATP will be produced. Can you remember this thing? We have done this one. Alright. So from 1 molecule of glucose, 38 molecules of ATP will be produced. ATP means adenosine triphosphate. Clear? So respiration proceeds only when oxygen is available and is therefore called aerobic respiration. So without oxygen or in the absence of oxygen, there will be no aerobic respiration. There will be no formation of energy also. ATP also. Okay, so we can say that aerobic respiration occurs in the presence of oxygen, and that oxygen is utilized for the complete oxidation of food particles. And whenever the food particles will be oxidized, whenever the glucose molecules will be oxidized, there will be formation of carbon dioxide, water, and energy. Energy will be in the form of ATP. Okay, so respiration proceeds only when oxygen is available, and therefore, since oxygen is very important for this particular process of respiration, it is called aerobic respiration, or we can say oxybiotic respiration. So aerobic respiration takes place only in the presence of oxygen. Without oxygen, we cannot perform aerobic mode of respiration. Clear for you? Now, what do you mean by anaerobic respiration? Now, there are certain parts of the plants, all right, which may temporarily respire even in the absence of oxygen. That means there are certain parts of the plant which can respire in the absence of oxygen also, and there are certain microbes. Okay, there are certain microorganisms which can also perform anaerobic respiration. That means respiration without oxygen. Now, let's see what will be the end products in case of anaerobic respiration. All right, like in case of aerobic respiration, we have got end products like water, carbon dioxide, and energy. So what will be the end products in case of anaerobic respiration? That means those respiration which takes place in the absence of oxygen. So therefore, in this type of respiration, there will be incomplete oxidation of glucose. In aerobic respiration, there was complete oxidation of glucose molecule. But over here, in the absence of oxygen, in anaerobic respiration, the glucose molecule is incompletely broken down into what? Into ethyl alcohol or ethanol and carbon dioxide with the release of a small quantity of energy. Can you see over here? Only small quantity of energy will be produced in anaerobic respiration. In case of aerobic respiration, if you remember, the end product used to be carbon dioxide, water, and 38 molecules of ATP. A huge amount of energy is being produced after the oxidation of one molecule of glucose. But in case of anaerobic respiration, you can see over here, there will be incomplete oxidation of glucose and there is no oxygen. You can see why there is no oxygen, and since there is incomplete oxidation of glucose, there will be formation of ethanol, C2H5OH, ethanol or ethyl alcohol. Okay, and carbon dioxide will be produced, but at the same time small amount of energy will be produced. Can you see why only two molecules of ATP are being produced? So there is a huge difference between the amount of energy being produced in case of aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. So only two molecules of ATP are being produced in case of anaerobic respiration, those respiration which takes place in the absence of oxygen. Clear? And the end products are mainly ethanol or ethyl alcohol, carbon dioxide, and ATP or energy. How much? Only 2 molecules of ATP. So from 1 molecule of glucose on complete oxidation in aerobic respiration produces how many energy? Look over here. 38 molecules of ATP. But in case of anaerobic respiration, how many molecules of energy will be produced from 1 mole of glucose? Only 2. Why? Because there will be incomplete oxidation of glucose. Clear? Now since this type of respiration can occur in the absence of oxygen, it is called anaerobic respiration or anoxybiotic respiration. Why? Because it occur in the absence of oxygen. All right. Okay. So there are certain bacteria, there are certain fungi, all right, which usually shows anaerobic mode of respiration. Even the germinating seeds, when deprived of air, can respire anaerobically, means anaerobic respiration. So go through difference between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So let's see out. Aerobic, it takes place in the presence of oxygen. It can proceed without using oxygen. So aerobic respiration, it takes place in the presence of oxygen only. Anaerobic respiration, it takes place or it can proceed without oxygen also. Number 2, there will be complete oxidation of glucose. In anaerobic, incomplete oxidation of glucose. Number 3, end products of aerobic respiration are carbon dioxide and water. Or look over here, in case of anaerobic, the end products are ethyl alcohol or ethanol. We can say ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide. Number 4 point, the amount of energy produced in case of aerobic respiration. So huge energy is produced in case of aerobic respiration. To 38 molecules of ATP are being produced from 1 molecule of glucose or from 1 mole of glucose in case of aerobic respiration. But in anaerobic respiration, from 1 mole of glucose, small quantity of energy, that is 2 ATP, are being produced. Aerobic respiration occurs normally throughout the life, but anaerobic respiration occurs temporarily for a short period of time. So kindly go through difference between aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Okay, so aerobic takes place in the presence of oxygen, anaerobic takes place in the absence of oxygen or can proceed without oxygen also. Aerobic respirations, there will be complete breakdown of glucose, but anaerobic, there will be incomplete oxidation of glucose. In aerobic, the end products will be carbon dioxide and water. In anaerobic, there will be formation of ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide. In aerobic respirations, 38 molecules of ATP will be produced from 1 mole of glucose, but in anaerobic, 2 molecules of ATP will be produced from 1 mole of glucose. And number 5th, the last one, aerobic respiration occurs normally throughout the life, but in aerobic respiration, it occurs temporarily for a short period of time. Clear? So here we are discussing mainly about the difference between respiration and combustion, and we have discussed the inlets from where the plants are able to get the oxygen through stomata, lenticels, and the general surface of the roots. And we have discussed the type of respiration, aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. So in the next class, we will go through the experiments on respiration in plants. So this much for today. See you in next class. Thank you.